Posted after J-Kun get destroyed. Literally destroyed. It's all good. It's all right. Yeah. That's no, I was not. I just happened to fucking click on it right after you posted. I was like, oh, you just got absolutely destroyed. Oh god, I love it. Oh shit, I don't even have my channel open. Oh fuck. It's my first day streaming. Like, holy fuck. Son of a bitch. Oh no. I don't know how to get the chat back. Yeah, no shit though. All right. Oh, really? That's fucking sick. I can't get my chat back, bro. I accidentally minimized chat. I don't know where. I don't know how to get it back. I'm panicking. Oh, there. I found it. Okay, no. Now in the mod view, there is no chat. How do you mod without having chat? What is happening? I've never done this before. I don't know. I don't know how to fix it. God damn it. Son of a bitch. What? Okay, say again. No, no, and on Twitch, I'm trying to just pop my chat out, and I can't do it because it went away in my mod settings. Like I accidentally clicked a button, and it was like hide chat, and I don't know how to get it back. I see collapse. I see pop out. No, that's for the stream itself. Channel actions, shield mode, followers only chat, slow mode, block terms. Okay, just close this. I don't know how to fix this. What, you mean the BDO soundtrack? I told you. I told you. Like kind of pops off, bro. That's on Jar Jar. What do you mean? Oh my god! What are we paying you for? How do you pop your chat out? Oh, here we go. Settings. Oh, here we go. Pop out chat. Oh god, thank god we did it. All right, man. First try. Fuck, bro. Okay, I need to get J-Kun's chat popped out. I need to get Iltis's chat popped out. Oh. Oh, see, this is why I have a stream PC, baby. Oh. Well. There we go. Pop out Jay's chat. There we go. Everyone's panicking in Discord. Shut up, Jay. You're not supposed to share that. You're not supposed to share that, Jay. Damn it, Jay. This is a clean production. Let's see, pop it out. There we go. All right, now I have all three chat windows open. I'm a fucking gamer. Holy shit. 5 monitors. No, I have 3 popped out chats for each. I have each of your chats open on 1 monitor. I know. Okay. So what did this mute to, bro? I said mute. Xenon, what's up? Hey, girl, hey. Yo, guys, thanks for tuning in. It's the very first podcast. I'm very excited. Very excited. Let's go. Oh. Yeah, I can hear you, yeah. Oh god, I hate audio issues, bro. Alright. Thank you! Hey girl! Oh my god, I'm very excited for the very first podcast. Okay, I gotta get ready. Woo! Focus! I'm doing great. I'm just nervous. You know how it is. A brand new production. I'm nervous. Okay. Right on. All right, we are ready with the very first Old Moon podcast. Let's go. Check it out. Check it out.
Hello?
Oh my God, it's Jay. It literally
Hi.
is. He's here. He can wave at you. He can also do a little dance thing, but that gets kind of awkward. All right, so I'm joined here. Of course, I'm your host for the Old Moon podcast here, and I'm joined here with my co-hosts, J-Kun, VT, and Arisley, otherwise known as Tiltus, the man, the myth, the legend himself. J-Kun, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Jay, and my favorite animal is a raccoon, and I play BDO. Hi, and I'm 750 gear score. Hi.
Oh, okay, just measuring. Okay, we're just getting the measuring sticks out early then. That's fine. Okay, all right. I thought we were keeping the gear out of it. Gee. All right. Okay, buddy. And Tiltus, why don't you introduce yourself for us real quick?
Yeah, what's up, boys? I'm Tiltus. I've been playing BDO for way too long, and I've killed like 4 guilds now. So you know.
What? They've all, in fairness, they were all the same guild.
No, there was 2.
Yeah, right.
There was 2. There was the very first guild I was in. I killed that so hard it never came back.
Okay, maybe we picked the wrong co-host. Yeah, we're trying to support the community. What are you thinking? What are you thinking about? All right, so just so you guys know the structure of the Old Moon podcast, I'm basically going to be throwing subjects on the screen. We will be watching our chats to see if anybody adds something interesting to the conversation that we want to put in. But we're going to have this current subject topic up on this right side here, and we're going to start off with anniversary events. And J-Kun, I'll hit you with the question first. J-Kun, you've been playing the game a super long time, right?
Yeah.
And so have I. So has Tiltus. You guys have been around for a lot of anniversary events. Do you think this current anniversary event, I'm not asking if it's good, I'm asking if it measures up to like the hype that like previous anniversary events in BDO have lived up to? Yes or no? What do you think?
I think in the past they've like overpromised on a lot of things, and this time they've been a lot less overpromising, and I do think that's a good thing to a certain extent, because in the past they've announced a lot of things like Terror of the Deep Sea. That was like some content I really wanted to experience, but they just cut it, and so I do think the limited amount of announcements was a good thing to not overpromise things again. And what we have currently, I think it's good. I do think it's good. Yeah.
Well, but when you compare it to like, were you around for like the 2nd anniversary and the 3rd anniversary and the 4th anniversary? We had one of our anniversary events was like, do you remember like the accessory event where like you had to go out and do like a daily grind quest every single day?
That was a good catch up.
Right, and then you did it every day, and you were guaranteed, and this is gonna sound crazy, everybody, a duo ogre ring. Wild. Yep. Absolutely insane. That was madness back then, and you had a chance to get a tri ogre ring. That was absolutely madness back then. I don't know, Tiltus, how do you feel about like the hype compared to previous years?
I mean, there was practically 0 hype this year, right? But I think that, like Jay said, not over-promising stuff and then failing to deliver on a bunch of that stuff is probably a better look than over-promising a bunch of stuff and then giving us literally no content.
I feel like that's more of a problem with the ball than it is the anniversary event. Right? The balls in previous years when we were dealing with
the balls are for one thing and one thing only.
Hammers.
Jay's hammers.
No, honestly, I used to love the balls because Jay would stand up there and lie to me for 4 hours about what content I'm going to get in the game. It was awesome. And then he started doing this crazy thing in the last like 12 months where he starts telling me the truth. And honestly, I don't know how I feel about it. Like there's one time, I swear to God, the most exciting content that I've been that I was ever excited about was server wars. They introduced this like 2 years ago at one of the balls. Jay had like this whole like half the ball was about this server war thing where your guild was gonna have to ally with Valencia or Caltheon, and then there was gonna be this constant open world PvP struggle where you were gonna have to constantly try to raid the opponent's forts and try to get in their castle, and it was like 24/7, so all guilds were involved, and you could constantly attack other guilds' command posts and stuff. It was like this super sick description, and we were all like, we have no idea how this is gonna work, but we are very excited for it. And Jay was like, we also have no idea how it's gonna work, but we're glad you're excited, and you're never gonna get it.
That was the 2 years ago ball, wasn't it? Calpheon from 2 years ago, I think.
Yeah, like it. Oh god. And then honestly, Perlibus took over, and it's been a different story since then. But like the as far as the events for like the anniversary specifically, I feel like the anniversary events are always like the most hype events of the year. And I think that like this year, I don't know, man. I just feel like it just wasn't as hype as the previous year. I just didn't feel it because like it was just like, you know, a drop rate event. I will say the Pearl Shop deals, best Pearl Shop deals we've ever had. Period. Dot. But like, as far as like the events themselves go, there was no like crazy like they're gonna give away Tri Boss gear. I know that sounds crazy, but back in the day, Tri Boss gear was really good. It was super good. Nowadays it's not as good, but they used to give away like big progression stuff for like new players or make us super excited as veteran players about playing the game. And I just feel like this anniversary event didn't quite capture that. It definitely was hype. You know, there's a big drop event and stuff, but we get drop events all the time.
Yeah. I said something I wanted to touch on. Oh, speaking in that same vein, something I didn't notice, and I may have just missed it, but was there a New Year's event this year?
When you say event,
I say, remember back in the day they used to give us boxes.
Oh yeah, no, but they had to stop doing that. Okay, so there's a reason that they stopped doing that. This year their event, oh, I shouldn't use, sorry, Delphi. The CMs, oh shit. The CMs definitely set off fireworks in Calpheon and stuff, which was amazing. But in a much realer sense, we want free stuff. We didn't get an event like that this year. And in previous years they actually, so the boxes have gotten worse every year, and then this year we didn't get a box at all. It's like they've been weaning us off of it like it's some sort of drug. Like 3 years ago we got, or 4 or 5 years ago we got this box, and you had a 10%, count it, 10% chance to get a Vels or a Garmoths out of this box. And you were guaranteed to get a piece of boss gear. But 10% of the server got Garmoth and Vels hearts. And at the time, that was crazy. And nowadays, that would be even crazier, right? Like, that would be literally even crazier. And then the next year, they were like, all right, no more of that, because we had so many people. The word I'm going to use is exploit. The first time they gave away those boxes, they didn't actually have a quest, requirement on the boxes. So people just made, because it was a 10% chance to get a Garmoth's heart, people just made a bunch of accounts and just logged in, got the box, rolled it, and then sold the shit to the marketplace. So then the CMs and the GMs were like, all right, they can't be trusted. They can't be trusted anymore. We have to put a quest requirement. They have to at least finish the Calpheon quest line. And then the next year, the box didn't include Vels and Garmoth. And then the next year, it got even worse. And then this year, we didn't even get a box. And it's like they were looking around like, did they even notice? Did anyone, no one even said anything? But yeah,
funny,
no,
I didn't notice it until a month ago. I was sitting there and I was like, wait, did we get a box this year for New Year's?
Yo, hold up. Nah, bro, they just snuck it right past you, bro. They snuck it right on past you. But yeah, I just think that I'm excited for the tournament event again too. Honestly, I'm always excited for that event. Yeah, I'm always excited for that event every year. It's not because it's a fishing event. To be honest with you, fishing events used to be like the highlight of BDO, bro. Like you could make more money AFK fishing than you could like at Pirates or Sawsons, right? And then nowadays, it's like, why am I could still just AFK train and make more money. Like, I don't. What do you guys do AFK?
Dummy train.
Okay.
I'm still a fisher boy. I still fish.
Jaken's like, I'm already 750 year score. I don't really have anything. Okay, buddy. Like,
you know what I really miss about the summer events was Mysteries of Summer. I don't think we've had it for like 2 years or something, right? And,
oh man.
In the past, they've given out some like crazy stuff, like the Black Pegasus, the Lion's Ring, which is like a red version of the Merchant's Ring. And now the last 2 years have just been there was no Mysteries of Summer.
Yeah.
So I wonder what happened with that.
I think we harassed them to death. Does anyone? I'm gonna say the three. Rock look deep.
Rock look deep. Yeah,
I think the CMs literally never mentally recovered. I think they're still getting shit about Rock look deep. Everyone was so pissed.
How was that answer solved again? I completely forgot.
I don't know. It was some weird shit in Tariff or something.
Area in Tariff, right?
Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah, it was literally something in Tariff. It had to do with something in Tariff. I didn't do it because I knew the Mysteries of Summer. Okay, for anyone that doesn't know, the Mysteries of Summer event used to be where it's these super hard quests in BDO. So the developers, or in this case the CMs, would release like a riddle, like a very challenging riddle that you would have to have a lot of BDO knowledge and like player know-how to try to solve. So then you go try to solve the riddle, and then you would get another riddle. Once you solve that riddle, you would get another riddle, which would lead you to the next step, and so on and so forth. And this was a wildly difficult quest line. Like notoriously, like they would give away, like J-Kun said, they would give away like T10 Peggies, or actually, I'm sorry, they give away black Pegasus, and I'm pretty sure there's only ever been 3 of those given away on the server. One of which the account already got banned. Because NA is awesome. But like the Mysteries of Summer used to be really, really cool because I would just watch everyone else mauled over it. I would never personally get involved because oh my god, dude, like because I'm just watching people jump on invisible platforms and you just, oh no, I can't do it. The Rock look deep thing killed me. The memes on Reddit were legendary. I'm pretty sure they never mentally recovered from it.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, wild. I remember there was this one quest or challenge. You had to go on this hot air balloon in Caltheon, and then when it flew over the Valtara mountains, you had to escape or go to character select to land on one of those platforms. And I personally, I literally did it for like 5 hours and I quit after that because I couldn't handle it anymore. Oh my god!
Like I said, I'm pretty sure.
There were a lot of fun things that came through with that, though. It's always fun when you see like community events like that where you get a bunch of people together to do stuff, because I remember it's one of the few times I've been in the BDO event Discord was for the Rock look deep when everybody was trying to figure out all the riddles.
Oh, God. It's really cool to see the community come together over mutual hatred for the people that made those fucking riddles. Really, I mean, truly, it's a community bonding experience where we're all just hating on the people that created these riddles. And God bless them. Honestly, they were super good, but I really think that the reason we don't get it anymore is because we harassed the shit out of them too much. And honestly, it was a great event. You're absolutely right. I hope they bring it back this year. But like, it was an amazing event back in the day. All right, let's look ahead to these patch notes here. We did look at the Taiwanese server to look at our patch notes for tonight. It doesn't look like we're getting any crazy good patch stuff tonight, just a pretty standard patch with this one. But one thing I do want to touch on is on the global labs, there's actually a patch that has like all of these brand new passive buffs for every single class in the game. So if for those of you that don't know, Corsair and some of the newer classes like Draconia all have very special, unique passives that don't really give them an edge so much in PvP, but it helps them RP a little bit better, and like it gives them special advantages out in the game. Like you can get your church buffs on the fly, or you can swim faster in the water as Corsair, or Corsair can glide over the top of the water for short periods of time, stuff like that. So they're trying to give all of the classes in the game a buff like that. Now, before I pop off about my class, Jacob, what do you feel? What do you feel about these passives coming in here? Do you feel like any of them are too strong or too impactful? And yes, if you answer Warrior and Valkyrie, it's okay.
Yeah, I do think some of them are way better than others. For Witch and Wizard, we got 5% additional knowledge gain or something like that. And then some of the stronger ones, like I personally think the one that Ranger has and Dark Knight has, you have a 30% chance to not use durability on your alchemy stone, which I think that's a really powerful passive compared to freaking 5% knowledge.
Oh god, yeah, not that we're gonna pick one in particular, but if we were gonna pick one that was literally quite literally the worst, like F tier created its own tier, it would have been Wizard and Witch. Thank you so much to the Wizard and Witch developers who decided that having 5% knowledge gain would be equivalent to being able to change your skill add-ons in the middle of combat. These are the same thing. These are basically the same thing. Tell us, what do you think about
I
it?
do wish
As a
they were more
Valkyrie.
in line with the newer class passives. So, for example, Corsair can turn into a mermaid in the water and swim a little bit faster. For Wusa, her rain puts out burn debuffs. I think those are like those quirky class passives that I was looking for in the older classes. So
Yeah,
I hope
Hash
that we do
runs faster
change
through the
them.
desert.
Yeah.
So Tiltus, as a Valkyrie, tell us, why do you think the Valkyrie one is so OP?
I can just change my skill add-ons whenever I want.
Yeah, it's literally the
Go
dumbest.
anywhere I want. and
What
just
the
be like,
hell?
"Oh, well, this one's not working. Let me swap that out real quick.
What the hell, bro?
Let me walk away from blue for 15 seconds
Unbelievable.
to swap this real quick and come
Unbelievable.
back.
Yo, Vast Mode Interviews. Thank you so much for that raid, buddy. I really appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, that's just actually a crazy, like, super intense passive. And then the Alchemy Stone durability, and then there's one of them that's just like your normal gear durability. As like a chance not to like lose durability or whatever over time. Again, all super useful things, but like as Jakun said, I was actually kind of hoping for like more like RP is like a taboo in video, but like more RPE things. I was kind of hoping that, for example, Tamer. This is gonna sound crazy. I'm gonna blow your heads up right now. What if Hailing, when you started on your Tamer, started as like a level 1 mount, right? And then over time it has its own special stats, and then you could just auto path it, or like as you rode Hailing around, it leveled up, or as you progressed on your Tabor, it leveled up over time to like level 99 or something. That would be really cool. It'd be like a little passive thing that like Tamer got that nobody else really got, and you can see progression on your character. That'd be really neat. But like, or like Jacob said, being able to turn into a mermaid is really cool. Honestly, the answer we were really looking for was anything other than 5% knowledge gain would have been honestly super fucking spectacular.
You feel strongly about that
So,
one, huh?
man, I'm so mad. I was like, oh baby, they got to chase their skill items. I'm like scrolling through it. I'm like, oh my god, they get a free alchemy stone. I was so upset, bro. I was actually just so upset. Yeah, I think they're really cool. I think they're headed in the right direction with that stuff.
It was something.
Yeah,
It's something I brought up like many years ago. We talked about it in like a group setting many years ago. Was like, I liked the idea. Like, it was right when Hash came out, so we were talking about it, and I was like, I really like the idea, but the implementation is a little weird for Witch Wizards. Y'all get your 5%.
They couldn't even make it something like really good, like 50% or something. Like if it was something like really significant, no, 5. We get 5%. And for people that have already been playing the game for 7 years, you already have all the knowledge that you care about, right? Like everything else is like TLDR, bro. Like we don't care anymore. I don't know. I was just a little disappointed about it. In that vein, do you guys feel that, I know Tiltus, you wanted to talk about this a little bit, but do you guys feel that, Tiltus, I'll let you feel it. Do you feel that Pearl Abyss is headed in the right direction with BDO? Do you feel like it's more fun to play today than it has ever been in the past? Is probably a more concrete way of asking it.
It's such a sensitive like conversation, right? Because I'm so jaded from the days of when Cacao ran BDO and nothing ever happened that we wanted. It was like talking to a brick wall. It was literally the meme of the guy talking to the brick wall. And then PA took over and we got changes, but it was like weird changes. And now we have like this hope change, right? Where they'll pop out. A lot of the PvP guys will agree with me. They pop in for like the month of October and they'll get all the node war feedback that they can in that 1 month. And then they're like, okay, yeah, we'll implement some of these. And then
that's it.
For the remainder of the year, it's very sporadic little like drops in the bucket here and there. It's like this year they did seasons for Node War, which I thought was interesting. They called it a season. And I'm like, okay, cool. Elaborate on that. Like, give us something, the season lasts for 6 months. And, these are the rule sets that you're going to be playing with for the 6 months.
Oh, that's so confusing. It's so confusing. They could have used any other word, bro. We already have a seasonal. Why would you use the word season? There's any other word would have been fine. Okay, anyway, continue. You absolutely right, though.
So I think the devs listen more now than they have in the past. That being said, I don't think they listen particularly well. And I think the Archer's most recent change that hit live was one of those things where they increased Archer's damage across the board. But every Archer I know was like, that's not what we wanted as an archer. We wanted survivability. We wanted to get skills with forward guard or something like that to help us stay alive. But instead, PA was just like, here's a bunch of damage. So.
Yeah. Okay. So in fairness, let's address the archer thing real quick. So there's very critical things that like I feel like. So I talked when I was at the Calpheon Ball in LA. I got to talk with some of the developers and the KR people that work on the game. And the way they like to do is they have like a vision for the class that they want. Like Archer specifically has like specific people that like, if these people say it, this is what's going to happen on this class. And they have a vision for how they want that class to like function within the world of BDO. For like in terms of like overall RP, like it has to follow the lore, it has to fit in their play style, and it also has to have a balanceable mechanic that the other classes can play around. Archer specifically can almost shoot you. I'm sorry, actually, some of its skills can actually hit you from off the screen. If you gave those skills frontal guard on top of it, they're literally going to be untouchable. So like,
yeah,
I know the archers want survivability, but also that's what gives them like balance. Like, is the fact that like you can actually hit them if you close the distance fast enough.
And then they've released Megu.
Okay, well that's a valid point. I honestly,
Megu has almost the same range as Archer, but can go through iframes for an indefinite amount of time, it feels like. So trying to play a melee class into a Megu just actually makes me want to die. Okay.
Honestly, that wraps back a little bit to our discussion. Like the live patch notes actually just nerfed Megu a little bit. For those of us that don't know, Megu did receive some nerfs on this current patch. Most of them were just PvE nerfs, but they received a nerf to their class buff. I believe they ripped the critical strike chance off of the class buff. How do you guys feel? Does that actually impact Megu at all? How do you guys feel about that? Is it strong enough?
I feel like the nerf was a lot better. The class, I noticed it this week doing Node Wars. I didn't feel like I was getting blown up from off screen quite as much. So definitely the crit buff change was good, but I don't think it was the core problem that I have with Megu from PvP. So it's good, but not really what I was looking for, if that makes sense.
Right. It was critical hit damage instead of critical hit rate. That's my bad. Jacob, what do you think? Jacob, as a full DP meme shy, tell me, do you have problems with Megu? Is it able to kill you? Like, are you struggling as a full DP meme shy against this class? Like, do you feel oppressed?
Yes, I mean, as a DP shy, when we're going into Node Wars, majority of it is capped anyways, and so your extra DP doesn't matter too much, other than HP. I think HP is the only defensive stat that really goes past caps, right? But you know, more ranged damage and just blows you up in general. I do think in terms of like Megu PvP skill, a really common comment that I've heard about Megu is that how do I word it without offending Megu?
The word you're looking for is overpowered. I'm just helping you.
Well, a common comment I heard was that it doesn't take too much skill to utilize the clone mechanic. You kind of just throw it out, and then it just naturally just confuses people. Maybe even confuses your teammates or even yourself. For the most part, and so I'm not too sure how they could sort of balance that even further to make that less confusing, but I think the range damage has improved from nerfing the e-buff.
But is the damage the problem with the class, or is it one of the problems with the class? Like you touched on, my biggest problem with the class here is that honestly, I think the developers were trying to do this thing, and League did this for a while too, like Riot did this for a while too, where they just want to show us that they can do this cool shit. But they have no idea how they're going to try and balance it. So they introduced a concept to the game in this Megu clone, and they were like, look how cool this is. We can totally code this into the game. We're like, you're right, that is cool. So how are we going to balance it? And then they just went silent. But like, so the clone is just such a difficult mechanic to balance in PvP, especially large scale PvP.
Oh,
because
God.
How many of us have had somebody dive into our offense ball and you can't see their HP. You don't know if they're invulnerable for some reason, if it's just lagging, if it's desyncing. You just have to keep hitting that thing until you know for sure, oh, they escaped, or oh, that person's bugged, right? You have to like actually check. So it takes away this dynamic this Megu clone where you're like, oh, you just have to be good enough to tell the difference. No, like in large scale, there's no way to really tell the difference between the clones and the real ones, because player lag and like desync and escaping is a thing. I feel like they introduced something here that is going to be so hard to balance that we're going to end up in this thing where Megu is either way over the top busted, which is where we're at now, or it's just bottom feeder garbage, which is where they're gonna have to put it to balance it. Like, I don't even know if there's an in-between spot that they can find it unless they add a new aspect to the mechanic. Go ahead.
One of my big things with the Megu clones is there's two big things with the Megu clones that annoy the crap out of me. Number one, they should not be targetable. Just make them not be targetable. As a Valk BSRing, when a Megu clone spawns in front of you and you drop on the Megu clone, it is the most infuriating thing on the planet.
Let's be honest, you weren't going to hit anything anyway. Oh, we got it!
But the few times that I've been like, oh, this is a good one, and then there's a Megu clone in front of me and you jump forward like 2 feet and drop all your damage on the Megu clone, you're like, oh, okay, dude.
Yeah, no, really it's awful. It's miserable, especially for... Yeah.
And the other thing that they need to do is it should just disappear if it takes any kind of chip damage. It just needs to move it off my screen. If an archer shoots it and it's gone.
Well, then it's useless though. Like in large scale, there's shit hitting things all the time. Then like, this is my point. Like, there's no in between. Either it's completely useless, where like if anything hits it, it goes away. Okay, well that's completely useless, right? In large scale. But in 1v1s, that fix works. You're absolutely right. Small scale 1v1s, that will work. But in large scale, there's no real solution to this problem that fixes it across the board. Like I've been thinking about this for days. Unless you make the clone like visibly different, like it's got like a I don't know, different outline around it or something, like so that a player can actually tell by looking. If you look very closely and you can tell very quickly, oh, that's the clone. Like then it might work, but like then you got to change the mechanic a little bit. So I don't really know how you fix this. Like, I thought it was really cool.
It's a really fine line. Here's my only thing with large scale is every class plays differently in large scale than it does in 1v1s or small scales. If you want to be effective on your class, you have to change the way your playstyle is for 90% of the classes in the game. So if Megu has to change its playstyle, because correct me if I'm wrong on this, I don't have much experience on Megu. It feels like you can play the exact same in 1v1s, the exact same in small scale, and the exact same in large scale on a Megu. Whereas most classes in the game have to change based on what situation you're in. Right.
Like Warrior. Yeah. Like any class in the game really has to change.
I mean, Valk just becomes a BSR target, right?
Hey, that's not true. That's not true. Let's be honest. Let's give Valk credit where credit's due. Valkyrie's the best support class in the game when played correctly. Like they have the best healing in the game, and I'm a witch, bro. I'm looking over at them like, bro, can I get some of that shit? So like they have the best healing in the game. They've got class buffs. They've got their PA on there, which is objectively better than the other PA. So that Valkyrie does add more aspects than just the BSR target. But yeah, I understand what you're saying. I just think
but it's just like it plays like Valk plays differently in large scale than it would in small scale or 1v1s. Zerker plays differently in large scale than it would in 1v1s or small scales.
Okay, so I would challenge you with Striker. Okay, Striker. If I ask the average Striker, I say, okay, hey, what are you gonna do?
90% of classes are different. Not all of them.
What are you gonna do against Dark Knight? Well, I'm gonna one-hit her, and then I'm gonna grab her, and then I'm gonna leg drop her. Okay, well, what are you gonna do against the Valkyrie? Well, I'm gonna one-hit her, and then I'm gonna grab her, and I'm gonna leg drop her. So some of the classes in the game are one-dimensional, and they're built kind of like that. But you're absolutely right. Megu seems to be, it's supposed to be dynamic enough that you can play it different ways. But as it is right now, you just hold shift and run around. And like, you're just iframed forever, and then you have infinite range damage that you kill people with. So like, it's just that class is just gonna struggle so much to be balanced. Maybe you're right. Maybe we do just get rid of the clone in large scale, but then I feel like you're just eliminating the whole aspect of succession Megu that makes the class interesting. It would be like removing the mermaid form on Corsair and being like, tough shit, you can't be this good in large scale. Like I don't know, man. You're just removing some of the identity.
Line that the devs could strike right now with the class. The current iteration of the clones is not it. Maybe you iterate on it and you make it better. Somebody in my chat said maybe make it disappear after a set number of hits against the target. That's an option. But right now it just doesn't disappear at all. It doesn't matter how much damage you pump into it. The thing stays there for really 2 seconds or whatever it is.
Even if the Megu's dead, it's still there.
Yeah.
Like you kill the person
Does it
and
still
the clone
show up
is
on
still
the
there.
minimap?
You're like doing double takes. Like, is that thing gonna? Is it gonna hit me? Like, I don't. Plus, the clone like casts skills and stuff.
Yeah. Does it still
really
show up on the minimap too?
I think that they fixed. Oh, good.
I think they added like a visual change. It looks different on the minimap now compared to before. It's but who's looking at the minimap for
Shot
while you're
callers.
fighting a Megu? Oh. Well, when you're fighting a Megu is when it...
What do you mean you're not looking at the minimap? What are my spies not watching the minimap? Like what? Who doesn't watch the minimap during war?
Well, I mean, when you're fighting a Megu, right? When you're just like by the Megu itself, it's just you're not trying to differentiate the group, you know, dots compared to just like looking at the Megu, right?
Yeah,
Okay,
the
that's
thing that
fair.
trips me up as a shot caller is when you see a diver come in and it's actually just a Megu clone that drops, you know, a few feet away from the ball, and then all of a sudden it's gone again. And you're like, oh, I thought we were getting dove. We're actually not getting dove. That was just one guy with this funny haha class. So I think there's a fine line that there's a fine line they can strike with it. The current iteration of it is not it though, and I firmly believe that.
Agreed.
Yeah, I think they're gonna have to do a little bit more than just nerf the damage. Is what I'm kind of getting at. And if they're gonna nerf the damage, they're gonna have to nerf it into uselessness if they're gonna get it any more relevant. Now, let's pivot off the PvP a little bit. Still on the subject of Megu, what do you think about nerfing PvE on a class? Do you think that the Megu needed the nerf in PvE? Do you think PvE nerfs? All right, this is a hot button subject. Some people hate PvE nerfs. Like, why would you ever do that? And those are generally striker mains that have been dominating for years and got really upset in a recent patch where they actually got nerfed.
My personal opinion, you should only nerf PvE classes if they absolutely need it.
Do you think? Okay, go ahead, Jacob.
I was just thinking in terms of like balancing PvE, generally to not, you know, make everybody angry, you buff the weaker classes is how it should be to balance that out. Versus like nerfing the stronger classes, and I think that's gonna make everybody less. That's like the less evil of the two, you know.
Yeah. I think that there is definitely a place for PvE. I know this is probably a lesser held opinion, but I think that there's a lot of players that play BDO, and the only way they play the game is maximum efficiency. How many times have we gotten in our chats before, what's the most efficient class in PvE in the game? That's the class that I want to play. And so like nerfing, right? Like they're not, and that's fundamentally flawed, right? Like if you approach the game like that, you're gonna quit just because you're playing a class that you don't want to play. So I think that nerfing the Megu down to where some of the other classes are will give those players options, and it will prevent a lot of players from quitting the game that would otherwise have just felt like, oh god, I have to go out and play Megu for another 6 hours today. Like, I just don't want to do it, you know? Like, what if you hate the class but you feel like you're forced to play it? So I feel like if you nerf the PvE on an overwhelmingly dominant class, then it actually does help like the player base, because less people are going to quit your game because they don't feel as much, in my opinion, like they have to play that class or they're griefing themselves, right? Like and I think this plays into a little bit, we're going to flow into our current patch notes where we just got some big buffs to some of the classes in the current patch notes, like Draconia, Corsair, Tamer's huge. I'll touch on that in a little bit. And I forget, I think there's one more. It might have been Archer. But like they got some big PvE buffs. I don't think you guys play most of these classes, but
I think Tamer got a lot of buffs, right?
Yeah,
and
Tamer's huge. As well. Tamer had more gaps than Swiss cheese in her movement before the patch went out, and now Tamer's movement is actually so crisp and clean. I almost argue that it's a little over the top now. Like it's gonna be basically Mamo is gonna be unkillable, bro. You get that guy on the other team, you just dodge the few. Like Tamer got really big buffs there, and I think that its PvE buffs were huge, but most importantly, I think Corsair was in dire need of PvE buffs, man. That class, I tried picking up that class as a veteran player, and I really only grind. I don't grind stuff for efficiency. I just grind like the class that I want to grind, and I could not grind Corsair. It was that bad. It was miserable. Like there was just nothing redeeming about trying to play that class in PvE, but I do think the PvE buffs that came out with this most recent patch really did help the class overall. So So I'm very excited about some of those PvE buffs. Did you guys see the Dracania buffs too?
Yeah.
Yeah, they sped her up, didn't they?
Yeah, they sped her up a little bit. What kind of implications does that have? Bro, can we chill out with the speeding them up, bro? We could have just given her more damage, bro. Like, this is the one time when we're like, please, just give her more damage. Don't, in PvE, don't speed her up. Speeding up the class has implications in PvP that are kind of monk a W.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. How do you feel about speeding up Dracania?
That definitely gives her more, DPS, obviously. But that does both affect PvE and PvP. And so, I've seen the Draconias in this last node where I was just bongoing on my shy, and then I just exploded from nowhere. And so
get that Jay is what balance feels like. Screaming and then silence. Like, I think that Dracania was already an overwhelmingly strong class in PvP. I thought it got a bad rep, so it got nerfed. Like, when it first came out, it was like, oh my god, do you have more Succession Draconias than your opponent? If yes, win node. And then they nerfed it, and everyone thought it was terrible. And then it got, like, other classes kind of got brought down, and then it got some buffs after a while, and it kind of ninja'd its way back into, like, A to S tier in PvP, and I think that it's really strong, and then they sped it up, and now I think that it's like S tier. I think that shit is super good. Whenever people ask me, like a new player asks me, what should I play? I'm like, well, do you like having a big sword, doing a lot of damage, being infinitely tanking, having infinite sustain, and a good 100%? And they're like, those all sound like good things to me, Blue. And I'm like, excellent, let's go play that Dracania. Like, that's how you sell it to a new player.
Yeah.
They're like, would you like to do damage, dive into the middle of everything, have range damage, 100%, a great 100%, good in PvE? Like, you just list out all the positives without telling them any of the negatives about the class, and they're like, oh my god, this class sounds amazing. I'm like, I know, I need more of those. This is that's how you bait people into playing that class. So I think that class is definitely really, really strong in both large scale, and then in PvE, I'd say it kind of brought it. I've watched some of the Dracania people grind, and I think it brought it to, like, instead of being like D to C tier, it's now like in the middle somewhere. I think honestly, Awakening Witch. We didn't talk about Awakening Witch, but Awakening Witch got buffed a couple patches back, and that shit is so good. Awakening Witch is way stronger now. Is it still, like, is it particularly good? It's debatable. But, like, I feel like it really does do some damage in PvP. In PvE, it got massive buffs. And the elementalization buff helps it be just a little bit more mobile. I understand that the class's entire thing is that, okay, you have to grab the Awakening Witch. If you couldn't grab Awakening Witch, then the class would feel OP. But, like, I do feel like they're heading in the right direction with it. I feel like it's trending upward, and I think that overall PA is doing a pretty good job with balance. I know I might get shot for saying that, but, like, I actually feel like they're doing a pretty good job with balance outside of Megu. And in fairness with Megu, I feel like they created the class, and then they were like, ah, shit, we gotta balance it now. So if you set Megu aside, I actually think that they've done a pretty good job with the game overall. In terms of trying to be transparent with us and stuff like that. Go ahead, Diltus.
I think honestly, I just hate Megu so much that my opinion is skewed right now. But I think if you can balance Megu, or at least, like, gut it enough to where it's not the most overpowered thing in Node Wars for a few patches, so be it. I think it's just a little bit too strong right now, but I think the rest of the classes are, like, all relatively close to each other for the most part. I don't know what the upper echelon of PvP looks like right now, but I know in T1s, up until this most recent patch, it has been Megu hell down here.
Oh, it's we assure you, it is everywhere. Yeah, it's everywhere. So okay, all right, I've got probably enough about Mega. We can move on to one of our next subjects here. One thing that I want to talk about today that honestly I don't feel like anyone in the community is really talking about is this Trina Axe. Now, Trina Axes have gone through a lot of stages in BDO where they're really good and necessary to being completely useless for years, and then now we're back in this metagame where Trina Axes are really, really good again. Do you feel like Trina Axes are in a good spot? Do you like using Trina Axes? Do you feel like they're in a good spot? And for what type of PvP? Tiltus, why don't you take this one first?
So yeah, I like Trina Axe metas, and the reason I like Trina Axe metas, I actually like them more now that Spirit of Battle exists in the game, because I feel like having to pull a Trina Axe out and commit to going for the fort damage allows whoever's being attacked some kind of counterplay to losing their fort. Whereas when it was like just monster damage meta or raw AP meta for burning down forts, you don't have to stand right next to the stick where the enemy team is spawning. You can stand pretty far away and do a significant amount of damage to a fort. So I like the concept of, I've got to commit to doing this play. I'm going to do this play, and I have to watch what's happening around the fort. And if I fuck up, then my entire guild's going to die for it. I think that's a healthy way to balance axes. Because you'll see a lot of times, like especially a lot of players that are newer to axing and stuff like that, they'll stay on the stick for 1.5 extra seconds, and that player is going back to spawn afterwards. So, I like the Trina Axe meta.
Jacob?
I personally have never used the Trina Axe, but that could largely be due to the fact that I play a class like Shy in Node Wars, where putting out my buffs is way more important than taking out my axe.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I'm just kidding. But yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I will say that, actually, believe it or not, Shy should still use their Trina Axes sometimes,
Really?
because like in an uncapped PvP scenario where you're either trying to get rid of barricades and you don't have any horses, or you're trying to get rid of I don't know, you're trying to axe down the fort, and you or like during siege, yeah, you can buff everyone and then run forward with your axe. In an uncapped siege, if you're a DP meme axing a wall, you're gonna last for a lot longer. And there's probably not very many dedicated DP memes in your guild, but you're right. Shies normally don't need to pull out their Trina Axe. But do you like the current metagame? As someone that never uses axes, but you watch it being used, do you like it?
I have never been in a Trina Axe meta, to be honest. I think this is the first time I've been in one of the metas for Trina Axes. Whether I like it or not is a different question. I want to say I don't like it because it kind of changes. Like when I want to play a class to defeat somebody, I want to play the class instead of, it feels like you're playing a different class. You're playing like I don't know, this class with like 1 or 2 abilities, and I want to play my Shy, or somebody wants to play their Megu, you know, instead of pulling out their axe. So I want to say it takes away from playing the game or playing your class when you take out your axe, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. So there's 2 aspects of it. I like the axes in some senses, and then I don't like the axes in others. So a little bit about both of what you guys were saying. So like Tiltus said, I actually do like the fact that the axes force you to commit, and you're gonna get wiped. If you take out your axe, you have a much higher chance. It allows the defensive guild to actually use SOB successfully, surprise you with a big spawn or something like that, and try to recover a little bit. I like that. However, I think that in a tier like tier 1, for example, I hate Trina Axes. I think Trina Axes should be disabled in T1s, mainly because T1s are all about the new players. It's their first experience with Node Wars, and it's a lot of the guilds' first experience with Node Wars, right? You have a lot of new guilds coming to T1s, and Trina Axes are not forgiving. If you catch a new, and T1 forts are very squishy. So like you come up like as a more experienced shot caller, I come up even with a new guild, even with a bunch of new players in my guild. I'm an experienced shot caller, so I know everybody's got Trina Axes. So we walk up on this fort, say enhanced, for example, we had it enhanced in one of our recent Node Wars, and we walk up on this fort, there's no one there. We stripped the base and then axed it to 0 in about under a minute.
Sir,
I think that that's unacceptable. I think that that's not fair to new players or new guilds. Like, there needs to be much more forgiving play there. I think that axes, if you disable axes in T1s, it takes a lot longer to kill a fort. So yes, you could still strip them, but rebuilds are much easier to get up in T1s too. So like, there's that.
Yeah. I mean, do you want to touch on T1s at all in this, or do you want to leave that?
Go.
Time?
Yeah.
So I've been seeing a lot of the guilds that are T2 plus want all of the T1 top guilds to get the fuck out of T1s. They moan about it almost every single day. And I think
boy. Here we go.
Yeah, we're opening up again. That's why I said, do you want to do this? Do you want to do this?
Yeah. Okay, go ahead. No, go ahead. No, go.
I think that as of right now, like I run a casual guild, right? We have 0 recs. We don't have any requirements. You don't have to come to war if you don't want to. The core will pretty much always be there. I will pretty much always be there. which is fine, right? We foster in players that have never done Node War before, and they should get to show up and at least have some fun, right? And see if it's for them.
Right.
That being said, we have no incentive to go off of T1s at all. We have huge fights in T1s. The content is capped. T1 intermediates feel relatively great.
Well,
so
why don't you feel like you have reason to leave T1s?
well, for the reasons I just listed, and then there's no like Epidemic has been around for years. It's been around for 4 or 5 years as a Node War guild. We've gone up into T2s before. We've dabbled with that stuff. We've all been in siege guilds. Like we've bounced all over the place. Normally the core stays together and we just kind of move around whenever Epidemic's dead. And just right now, there's like we've already done everything in the game. Like sure, we didn't do it under the Epidemic banner, but I don't see a reason to go off of T1s.
I think
now.
Yeah, I think that you're not giving T2, T3 enough credit here. I think that the developers have actually, there was a lot of bitch, whine, and moaning about the new Node War system when it came out. The T2 caps, the T3 caps were extremely controversial, mainly because the loudest people of the community are also the people with the most gear and the least amount to do in the game.
Yeah.
So, but I think that overall, the T2, T3, the way that the developers have actually structured this, in T1s, you have like 25 to 30 man Node War caps, right? So like, and you're just starting out and the caps are really low, like Tuvala, right? Then T2s, you get like 40 to 50 man Node War caps. And the caps are like 600 to 620, somewhere in there. And I think that that's great because it helps the guild progress though. Like, so the caps are just a little bit higher. So you like, and as you get more players, as you get more attendance, your gear score average also climbs and you can naturally move on to T2s so that you can field all of those players. So for a guild that's like growing, and like has a lot of attendance, I feel like the moving into T2s is much smoother than it has ever been. Now the T2 caps are, admittedly, they're a little sketchy, but like, and then T3 is the same thing. There's even higher caps for tier 3 Node Wars, both in gear and people caps. And then you start getting into the bigger fights. But I think that, I think that I actually agree with the sentiment that those guilds should move off. Go ahead. Yeah.
So I said today in Node War Hub, because we're having this exact conversation. The only problem I have right now, so our alliance now has enough people to where we're overcapping every single night of the week for Node Wars, and there are people that are having to sit out because we don't have enough spots to bring to T1 Node Wars. So it's a real consideration that we've had of moving off of T1s. Is it something that we need to do just because the guild is popular at the moment? And we've got to look at getting everybody, you know, we don't want to hemorrhage members because people aren't getting to come to Node War. The problem is that T2 caps are bad. If T2 caps felt like, and this is the general consensus that I've gotten across most PvPers in the game right now, T1 intermediate caps, fantastic. T3 caps, fantastic. What is it? Medium siege caps are fantastic. T2 caps, bad.
This is I agree with this. Like the T2 caps, I think that what you're saying is if they adjusted the T2 caps to feel reasonable, that you would be more than comfortable moving up.
Absolutely. Johnny already pinned it in the Node War Hub today. I said if they fix T2 caps, I will jump ship out of T1s immediately. I don't even have to think about it.
How many other you were talking about the Node War Hub? How many other guilds feel this way?
Oh God. Most of the guilds that feel this way are going to be like your T2 plus guilds because their fights are really sporadic and they have to almost politic on the off nights to make sure that they're getting fights and stuff like that. Whereas T1s is just place a fort down, you're guaranteed to fight.
That is true, but T2s does that too. I mean, you get fights on T1.
Yeah, you can get fights. So I'm not saying that, but a lot of the guilds that have this mentality of T1 guilds need to move up are T2 plus guilds where the fights are not as numerous as they are in T1 guilds or in T1 fights. And then T1 guilds pretty much have the incentive right now, or the mentality right now of we don't want to move off. There's no reason for us to move off, so we're just going to stay on T1s.
So what about tier 3 though? Is it just too far of a jump to like get to tier 3?
I think it's too far of a jump. So like my guild, remember, we're casual. So the core all has a lot of gear. I don't even have a lot of gear. The core has a lot of gear. So they're like, we can hit T3 caps easy, you know, it's whatever. But that's only 20, or like that's only 20 players in a Node War, right? Out of available 40 or 50. So then you're telling me that the other half the Warforce that I'm bringing is not going to hit caps, and that's where the rub comes in. So if T2 caps were less gear, but they felt like T1 intermediates or T3s as far as like time to kill, we would 100% just probably move, because we need the slots. Like, I've got so many people signed up for tomorrow night's war.
Right.
It's like,
that's what we have.
I don't know what to tell you guys. Like, we're just SOL, first come, first serve.
I feel
which
that
sucks. Yeah, which sucks. But I really think if they just fix T2 caps, I think there's a lot of guilds that would willingly move. Like, I would have to imagine that. I won't put words in their mouth. Solace would move. I already talked to the leadership about it today, actually, because we were having this exact conversation for most of the day. We would move. Like, we don't have a choice anymore. It's move or lose players that can't come to Node War. So,
Immersible brings up a good point in the chat. He says it's hard to get gear to cap T3 and meme accessories and HP stack meta, in my opinion. He's not wrong. So a lot of the tier 3, the part of the problem with moving up to like jumping straight into tier 3 is you're going to find Cho. You're going to find Corrupt. You're going to find Digi. And they're going to have... You're running into Choice. Choice has like 13,000 HP. And this new player is like, I technically made the caps. Runs in with like 4,000 total HP. And is just getting... I don't know why I'm not doing any damage. So like, that is true. That's definitely true. That's kind of naturally where like the Siege guilds kind of move to. The problem is, I think if you fix... It's a double-edged sword. If you fix the T2 caps... Cho, Corrupted, Digi are gonna come down to T2s, but I don't think that's necessarily the worst thing in the world, because you could just zerg. You could theoretically just zerg them straight off the node, because there are enough T1 guilds, T2 guilds on the scene that you could just theoretically push them off. But J-Kun, you haven't talked a lot about this, and I know you probably don't do a whole lot of T2, T3, but have you experienced the caps at all? How do you feel about this?
Well, as a DP shy, my DP feels like it doesn't matter at times, because of the caps. And, yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say is that I don't know if there's a way for them to fix that or make DP memes more powerful.
I was about to ask.
But
yeah, what's your take on how powerful Shy is? Do you feel like you have enough HP stacking with whale tendon pots and like all this stuff? Do you feel like you're relevant in like T2, T3 Node Wars, or do you feel like you're just this is useless? Like,
yeah, I do. I think the Shy buffs are so powerful. Because if you have your own BSR, if you've absorbed your BSR, that's 20% attack speed, and then have another 25% attack speed on top of that also lasts as long as your BSR, right? It's 60 seconds. And so I do feel I'm making an impact as long as I'm buffing like 10 plus people at a time constantly. And so even without the DP, I do feel like I'm contributing to the war effort as on my Shy.
Do you this is a question because Vutara just said it. He runs AP in Cap PvP. Do you run an AP set too? I assume so. Well, I mean, like the DP set probably gives you more HP, but is it worth the trade-off? Do you run AP in like a capped setup, or do you run the DP?
I don't. I actually just run a high HP in cap settings. Just like as much HP, so like base molar earrings, cadre rings with the blue cups, river necklace with the blue cup, centaurus with the I guess the cup doesn't matter since there's no HP cup for the centaurus. But yeah, I think when I have everything set up, it's about like 12,000 HP during caps. So
yeah, and I honestly, as a shot caller, the Shy buffs are, like you said, like they're so influential. You don't want like a lot of Shies. But I do feel like that the Shies still... I feel like they've done a decent job. Plus, it gives Shies that option. Like, you want to run maximum HP, like, all that crazy stuff. And then you've got, like, Wutaru and some of the other Shies running AP setups. I know Cass in my guild runs an AP setup sometimes, then an HP and a DP set other times. I think that opens up interesting possibilities for Shy. Yeah, it's not as viable as maybe it could be, but I think that you could say that for every class in the game. Obviously, it's a little bit more highlighted for Shy particularly, but... I think it still has enough usefulness on cap that it's still really, really good. Okay. Tiltus, one of the things that you wanted to bring up is why do players want to play BDO right now? Now, I have my own options. I have my own...
Do you want to... You want to deep dive into this, or you?
No. You go.
Deep dive it. Okay.
Yeah. Deep dive it. Let me see it.
So, one of the things that I've been thinking about with BDO a lot recently is that I feel like player retention in BDO goes through these massive waves. I feel like BDO has like pretty good highs, but then it has really low lows where things get stale and players don't play the game actively, and then they have to wait for something to bring them back. And I think that's a common thread that every MMO will have, except for maybe OSRS, where it's just always 30,000 players online and that's it, right? My problem is that I feel like as the game has progressed and gotten older and older, I'm seeing less and less people join up and say, I'm gonna do Node Wars and I'm gonna jump into the scene and I'm gonna make a guild or I'm gonna do this. And I think that outside of seasonal and outside of let me preface all this real quick. The first month that I played BDO was one of the most fun times I've had playing a video game ever. It was so enjoyable. The world was massive. There's no fast travel, so you have to explore the entire world yourself. There's thousands of mobs all over the place. I have no idea what I'm doing. And so it was really fun to explore the world. That being said, I feel like now is a weird time for new players to come into the game, and I feel like I don't see as many new players coming into the game as I once saw. I feel like seasonal is mostly just people leveling up Megus or leveling up Wusas or that kind of thing. So I don't feel like there's a ton of... Number one, I'm gonna say this, and I mean no disrespect to either one of you guys. There's not, and I say this as like a...
Oh God, he's about to lay it on me, bro.
I'm about to say something. I'm not targeting streamers. I'm not targeting streamers specifically. BDO does not have a lot of content that surrounds BDO. Like World of Warcraft has there's the face blue, I know. Like World of Warcraft, it feels like there's a ton of content available for you at any given time. I feel like BDO is relatively limited, and I'm not saying this is like streamers' faults or anything like that. It's just like the BDO is a little bit one-tracked, right? A lot of it is war stuff or gear stuff with life skill. You'll occasionally find life skillers as well. I don't know if that makes sense.
No. I see what you're saying.
Final Fantasy has massive amounts of content, right? But that's unfair to compare BDO and Final Fantasy in my mind. Okay. That's a good example of this huge well of content that's available, whereas BDO...
I'm gonna counter you
at the same time.
Okay, I'm gonna counter you. Okay, all right. So I'm on the other side of the aisle. I think that BDO right now, there's a ton of different reasons for new players to get into the game, and there are a ton of players starting to play. Either they're veteran players coming back to the game, or they're brand new players starting for the first time. And my evidence for this is the T1 scene is the first scene to really see a lot of like a huge influx of players, and then as those players get gear, you see the influx into the T2 scene. Those players push forward, and so on. But the way to check to see how healthy the game is you look at the season servers. Yes, the season started like a month ago. The novice season server, I understand there's like a fishing event on there's people reminding me there's a fishing event going on the season servers right now, so, which could contribute to some of the season servers being crowded. But the novice, how often do you see a game that's 7 years old, 8 years old, that has the novice only server is crowded? There's a ton of new players playing the game right now. We don't necessarily get to interact with them as much as veteran players because they're huddled in the novice server like, oh God, I don't want to go on a normal server. They will pound me. You know what I mean?
Don't feed them to the wolves. But
exactly. Yeah. But like a guild like Reforged, right? Or a guild like Epidemic, we would not be succeeding. Our two guilds are succeeding a lot right now, right? We're getting a ton of recruitment. That does not happen if people aren't playing the game. That doesn't happen if new players aren't coming to the game.
Veteran players.
A lot of ours is newer.
I'm skewed currently.
Okay, all right.
When we first started, it was a lot of new players. Now it's a bunch of veterans that want to T2s. So
we've got a mix, but so like we have, I would say like 70 or 80. I would say 70% of the guild is like 650 plus, and then the other 30% is like under 500. Right, so like we've got a mix of everything because we accept everyone like you guys do. We're much I don't want to say the word casual is probably not because we do 3 Node Wars a week, but like we don't require anything necessarily. We strongly encourage people to come to Node Wars, but I think that players find BDO fun, and I think that there's more players playing the game than ever right now. Except for when the game just came out. When the game, it's an unfair comparison. When the game just excluding that
you can't compare
specifically,
you can't compare
excluding that specifically. I feel like right now there's more players playing than there have been in the last 5 years or so. And in terms of overall content, BDO is very unique in that you can just pick BDO back up and not have to pay like $400 for all of the new expansions and all the new stuff that's come out. And there's so much more content. So BDO being a sandbox MMO makes it in the minority in the MMO like genre, right? Most MMOs are like theme park MMOs that really like to like drive their players and tell them exactly what to do, and so the content is very obvious. It's very easy to see content in that regard. BDO is very different. It's a sandbox MMO, so there's content fucking everywhere. Just look around. There's content literally in everything that you do. The problem is, if you don't, like, if you're a player that needs guidance, yeah, it's gonna feel like it doesn't have any content at all. So for the same reason, content creators, you mentioned content creators. I know you didn't want to target us specifically. That's fine, but like, content creators also, you're right. A lot of our content creators do fall short in the category because, again, I would call that more of a lack of imagination on our end, on our content creators end, because there's so much content in the game. You just have to be able to innovate it. Like, you just have to be able to play with it.
That. Yeah.
Right?
I mean,
so, like,
I did the dungeons for the first time this week, and I've never touched the dungeons before in my life. I expected the bare bones minimum, and I had a great time playing the dungeons. It was so much fun, and I was like, oh my god, how have I never done this before? This is amazing. So I do think you're right. I think there is content there. You just have to actually go look for it. Yeah, I don't know. J-Kun, how do you feel about it? Because you're in Noto, right?
You mentioned dungeon and his ears perked up. I'm not joking. I saw his raccoon ears. You said the word. You said the word dungeon.
Me too. They were so awesome. I was so shocked at how good they were.
When the third dungeon first came out, I literally ran it like 20 plus times with 20 different groups because I just wanted to get all my friends to love it as well, and they do, because I think the mechanics they have is very unique, right? There's no other type of gameplay like that. I do think in terms of like difficulty, the first dungeon is obviously the easiest, and then the second dungeon and the third dungeon, I think the difficulty was a lot more. So the second dungeon was more mechanic focused, I want to say, whereas the third dungeon was a lot more gear focused and not as intricate in mechanics. Because in the second dungeon, if you fail a mechanic, you just explode.
Oh, I loved the second dungeon. I haven't beat the final boss yet. I grinded it for like 2 hours and we couldn't clear it. It was one guy that had done it and 4 people that have never done it before. So it was a great time, dude. I was having a blast doing it. I was like, this is so much fun. So
when I first did the second dungeon, I actually failed it twice. If you didn't know, there's a 2-hour time limit inside the last room, and if you don't complete it, you just get booted out and you have to retry again. It took my group 3 times to finally figure out, because we weren't really looking at like guides and whatnot. We were trying to figure it out ourselves, and then and so the difficulty just felt so much more harder back then, because I think back in 2020, it was released 2020 October, I believe, and back then I was only like 640 gear score. I say 640. That's kind of
this guy just flexed on like 90% of the chat. I was only 640 gear score 4 years ago or whatever. Like, what the hell?
But yeah, I do hope that BDO takes and I do think it is going more towards a end game PvE game, even more so than Node Wars, to be honest. Like, you guys have been talking a lot about Node Wars and such, and for me, I don't really do too much Node Wars, even though I'm in Noto, but I think in terms of game growth and, like, you know, to keep player retention, I do think this is a based and biased answer because I love PvE content, and so I do think that developing more dungeons and PvE content, for group PvE content, especially like Olin's Valley. For me, I've been in Olin's Valley for like, let's say, I want to say almost 2,000 hours. I have I have like 2 merchant ring pieces from Olin's, and I could technically make a second merchant ring because I'm 3 out of 5 for my next.
Okay, buddy.
Yo,
I'm not trying to flex on purpose. I'm just trying to make a point. Right, but
I think any content that doesn't involve running in circles is really good for BDO, and that's why I loved 100%. The dungeons so much. I loved them. Like, I literally was so excited when we got to that second dungeon. I was having a blast. And I think that's really good. I would honestly like to see BDO's content shift from PvP to PvE, especially on the content creation side.
Okay, so I want to touch on that. So, like, I feel like over the years, when the game came out in the West, we are the West technically. So when the game came out in the West, all of the late game content in the game, like Jay Kun said, was all PvP. It was all PvP. And then it, like, somewhere along the line, the developers were like, oh my god, they all hate each other. Like, I'm not joking. And they were like, we're losing so many players because all of our late game content is PvP, and there's so few people in the MMO community. Believe it or not, we're in the minority of players. If you like PvP in the MMO community,
we're loud.
Very minority, but we're very loud. Player base. So like, I think that they catered to them early on, and then it's been nothing but regret since that. Like, the red players, they're just like, can we punish them and how? We're not going to remove this system, but we are going to make you regret being a red player, right? Like, so, but I think it's good though, because over the years we've seen, we've gone from like Sawsons and like Gahas, where you're just killing packs, just one-shotting a bunch of packs, to like Turos. And then you had party mechanics like Olins. And then they evolved to even further. So like, and now you've got the dungeon, which I'm not positive, but I think that what they did was they went to Destiny 2 and they said, what is Destiny 2 doing right with its raid? That is exactly
what I said. That is exactly almost word for word
and
what I said. And I know
this, and I can disclose this now because I didn't actually get hired. I applied for PA way back in the day, a couple of years ago. And in my interview, they were just working on the dungeon. The first dungeon had not come out yet. At the time, and in my second interview, I was so thankful that I was an avid Destiny 2 player during Forsaken and all those the good expansions. And he literally asked me point blank. He said, "How if BDO wanted to go after, if we wanted to mimic Destiny 2, what Destiny 2 is doing right, what would we do differently?" And I was like, so you're talking about the raid, because there's no reason to play Destiny 2 other than the raid. So I know that the developers were definitely looking at Destiny 2 as a model for their dungeon. And the first dungeon, I felt like it did a good job, but it wasn't challenging enough. Like, it made you work together, but it just wasn't challenging enough. And then the second dungeon was like, okay, this is a little rough. Like, maybe this was just a little too rough, right? And then the third dungeon, I feel like their third take on it, and they've really started to, like, perfect that. But I think that what it shows over time is they're transitioning away. Yes, we have this PvP late game content, but we're starting to be able to tell players that I have tons of players come into my chat, and they're like, Blue, what endgame content is there in BDO? And I can tell them now, hey, we've got the dungeon, you've got late game grind spots where you can grind with your friends, and it's not a safe grind. You're constantly clenching your cheeks the whole time, and you're laughing and you're having a good time while you grind together and watch Jake can get one shot by an Olin. Like, it's fun, right? Like, that kind of content. And the BDO, or I mean, like, the MMO community loves PvE content. We love raids. We love dungeons.
Absolutely. Look at Final Fantasy. Look at Final Fantasy.
Right.
Like, the PvP in that game is non-existent. That game is almost entirely PvE focused, and it does fantastically. World of Warcraft is way more heavily PvE focused as well. But yeah, I'm so glad you made that Destiny comparison, because I felt that in my bones. That's how I described it to everybody. I was like, you take a weekly Nightfall and you take a raid and you smack them together, and that's exactly what the dungeons feel like in this game.
It's exactly what it feels like. Yeah. So like, we're gonna try and springboard this at a little bit of a different. It's kind of a pivot. One of your other notes here that you kind of wanted to talk about is you said, stop making classes and focus on expansions and balance.
Yes.
I want you to expand on this. Stop making classes and focus on expansions and balance. That's your opinion. Let's see what you say. You explain it first.
Yeah, so this is exactly the problem that League of Legends currently has in the game. There is too much happening character-wise inside the game for balance to be easy. We see it with Megu, right? They released Wusa Megu. They released 2 classes at the same time, and they were like, oh crap, Wusa released underperformed and Megu released and it's overperforming everything that we thought was going to happen, right? So what I would really like for them to do, and it's Riot's same idea that they're having this year as well, is stop developing new classes for the game for like a year. Focus on balancing everything else in the game that exists right now, and put all of your effort into expansions, making more dungeons, making more PvE content, making more group content, revamping systems that are already in the game, which they're already doing. To to credit to them where credit is due. They're revamping trade right now. They're revamping the horse gear equipment. They're adding these little quirky passives to classes and stuff like that. And I appreciate all that because that's important to me. But I would like to see them put classes on the, maybe not stop developing them, but put them on the back burner and develop one for the rest of the year and focus on everything else in your game that's going right and make it better. And the things that are going wrong, fix them. I would like to see like a year of that. I think that would be really good for the game.
All right, I think J-Kun, you should go next because I feel very. This is a good talking point. J-Kun, you go next because I'm gonna go in on that. This is good. This is gonna be good. J-Kun, what's your thoughts on this? Should we get rid of, like, should they stop making classes for a while and focus on other content in the game?
So, okay, I do like when new classes releases. It makes me really hyped about the game and to try out new classes. And you know, I've been playing an Awakening Witch. If you guys don't know, my main was an Awakening Witch for like 5 years.
Don't fool us. You're a shy main now. don't lie to the people. Don't lie to the people. He's forsaken us. Anyway, go ahead.
I was waiting for a new class that really fit the aesthetic that I was looking for. Nova was one of those classes that really piqued my interest, but when I tried out the gameplay, I was like, womp womp. I hated the gameplay, but Wusa was the first one in 5 years that I was like waiting. I was waiting for that class and you know, the whole aesthetic with Wusa and whatnot. So I'm really thankful that they were able to create a class like that. But I do agree with you to some extent that if they could focus on creating new content, such as, you know, more dungeons. Like, I love the dungeon content. If you didn't know, Ataraxian came out in the beginning or the end of 2019, beginning of 2020, I believe, or something like that. And then the next dungeon came out like a year later, and now we got the third dungeon 2 years later, pretty much in 2023. And so the, you know, the dungeon content is there, but it's getting pumped out slowly. So if they could allocate more resources to create more group content, and hopefully the localization of the new region, Land of Morning Light, doesn't take you know, I think Odalita took like eight months before we got it. Oh god,
yeah, we don't talk about it.
Yeah. And, I mean, for console, it took like two years.
Oh, no, we don't talk about console.
Okay.
Go anywhere else but
there's a can of worms.
I really hope that the new region that we get doesn't take 8 months, or if my memory serves me correctly, Mountains of Eternal Winter came out April of 2022.
That sounds about right.
So that was like four or 5 months after Korea got it in December of 2021. And so, yeah, I'm hoping that the localization goes faster. And if they have to stop allocating resources to creating new classes to do that, I would, you know, lean more towards that than new classes. So,
okay. All right. This is going to be a ride. All right. So I hard disagree with saying no to making classes. So I think that there's a couple fundamental things that I want to get you to understand first. The first thing is why we keep creating new classes. The reason that League of Legends, because you brought up Riot, the reason why League of Legends keeps making new champions, the reason that people play League of Legends is not because the game is balanced or because they enjoy the gameplay. No, we all fucking hate that game. The reason that we play League of Legends is because we found a champion that we connect with, that we really like. For me, it's Evelyn, Queen. Like, I love Evelyn. Like, I just fell in love with the whole.
Oh my god!
With the whole thematic, right? With the whole thematic of the class. In BDO, do we have like 25, 26 classes now? Absolutely. But here's the thing that keeps people from playing BDO. It's new players, not so you come into the game, and we see this with a lot of like veteran players. Even they're just chronic rerollers. They can't find a class that they really they play, and they're like, they just fall in love with it, and they would just never stop playing the game if they just found a class that they absolutely loved. And so what the developers are doing is they keep introducing classes because that gives more of a broad scope to new players playing the game. They can pick a class and feel like, this is mine. Like, I feel personally attached to my class. So when they see it in a tournament, they're like, let's go, Maywa! You know what I mean? Like, they're really excited about seeing their class played and like getting online and playing their class. So constantly adding classes adds new players to the game that otherwise would not be playing, just because they finally found that alma mater class that they can play and they just absolutely fall in love with. So That's the point on the classes. Now we're going to talk about, you're like, okay, well, they should take that time. They should focus on how balance works. Two things wrong with that. First thing, the balance team is very different, I think, than the class development team. But
100% right.
they should hire more people. Agreed. They got like 6 people in a room trying to decide the future of the whole game. But like, that set aside, balance is not this. We're not trying to balance the game. You misunderstand. Let's look at Riot, for example. Riot's balance idea is perfect. They really nail it. You should think of balance like a snow globe. So at the start of the season, in the preseason for Riot, they shake it up. They make some really radical changes that they know some of them are going to be super overtuned, super imbalanced, but it gets everybody really excited about playing the game. Like, oh my God, this is going to be busted, or oh wow, this is new. It really shakes up the balance for a while, right? And the snow globe is kind of a mess. And then as the season goes on, as like season 9 or season 11, I forget what season we're like, season 14 or some shit now. Yeah. Season 14 goes on across the year. You'll see the balance start to like settle down a little bit as they make nerfs and hot fixes. The dust will begin to settle, and then by the time you get to Worlds, you get a very crisp, clear picture of what the meta actually look like and like what is actually good in this current meta game, right? Yeah. And then we go back to and we see the best of the best. That's when they hit you with Worlds, right? That's when they want to hit you with the best of the best players and show you, like, get you really excited about the game. And then what do they do right after Worlds when all these players are back playing their game again because they just saw it on the World stage and they're super excited about playing their champion? They shake it all up again. They shake the whole balance thing up again, and that gets a huge influx of players once again. So balance is not this thing. We're not striving for perfection, Tiltus. Yeah, sure. We are striving for imperfection.
Agree with that. Now, that being said, the caveat in that is that when Riot releases something that is broken, i.e. Megu, it gets handled relatively quickly. Yeah, well, I'm saying if Riot were to release Megu into the game right now, it would be fixed relatively quickly, and that's my only problem with that theory for BDO. And I'm fine with that theory. I mentioned it earlier. I think Node Wars should have some kind of season progression. Right? It's 6 months. Give us a season ladder board. Put the highest guild that wins the most nodes at the top. Do all that. You have the guild system in the game already that exists that like is basically useless unless you're looking up contact information for somebody. Like this guild ranking, give me something to do with that. That would be a super cool feature to have in the game, and make it to where you have a meta for the season. I'd be totally down for that. But you gotta fix.
You gotta actually change stuff.
Than that. Yeah,
yes, exactly. That is a fair. I think that is definitely a fair criticism. Like you touched on earlier in the podcast. There's like this thing where they're like, yes, we're listening to your feedback, but only for the next 14 days, and then the offer expires. Yep. Like it's like really weird. Like I feel like they're really listening to us for targeted amounts of time, but then once they've moved off it, we're not going to hear anything again for the next 365 days. And that's rough. You can't do that, which is why I said I think they need to hire more people. Like I feel like the CMs currently do a great job of giving feedback to the developers because I met them and I talked about this whole process. But the problem is the developers are like, oh yes, we heard your feedback. You know, and they just throw it out there. Okay, that's received. You know, like, and they just don't care. So, like, I feel like they need to do a better job of listening over time. Like, not just like listening up front. You got to listen and balance in steps over time. And then, like you said, you're absolutely right. They should do like guild seasons, where like one guild, we'll call it Show Nation, just as an example, dominates the meta for one season, and then the next season on T4 specifically, right? Because you could only, let's say you could only win one tier of node or whatever. Like, and your guild won the most nodes, and so therefore your guild is considered the strongest, and you get a bunch of passive buffs or something. I don't know, something cool like that. That would make it like a competition between the guilds. Like you said, they have this guild ranking system. It's been outdated for years. It's currently rated by points. Like it's
do you know how you get points in this game?
Guild missions.
It's literally just how many guild missions does your guild do, basically. Is all it is.
Right.
There's a final battle system in here. The only person on the first page that has a final battle ranking is BDO Navy.
What even is that?
I've never done a final battle. I have absolutely no idea what it is.
Does anyone know what a final battle is?
It's some kind of GVG system mechanic that they put in the game that they forgot about.
Where is this final battle? Oh.
Yeah, go to your hit.
Oh wait, no, Admiralty. A lot of guilds have final battle. They have 1,500.
Yeah,
somehow.
I think that it's 1 or 2 wins against another guild,
But see, like,
or something like that. It's basically like a GVG. It's like it's supposed to end GVGs was kind of the idea behind it. I think you can bet money from your guild funds that your guild will win this final battle situation. So
okay, quick question.
Yeah, go for it.
Can I bet on my guild losing? Because I doubled down on that shit. I doubled down on that shit, bro. I'm going into Cho. I'm going in. Like, yeah, definitely. I'm voting on win, guys. Don't worry about it. It's just like my chat when I'm enhancing.
We're just win trading. We're just win trading. Don't worry about it.
Right. So, like, but you're right. That's like a super outdated system, and I didn't even think about that. Like, they've updated the UI so many. I mean, look how cool our UI looks. It's way better than when we started the game. But this guild rankings thing, this is a relic. This is old. Bro, like, no one uses this. Like,
is for contact information when I'm in the middle of a node war and I'm like, fuck, I need to get in touch with this guild. Who is this guild? Who's the GM?
I think it
That's
would
the
be
only
cool.
time I use it.
Yeah, I think it would be cool to kind of pit the guilds against each other, and not just the PvP guilds either. Imagine having like life skilling seasons. I know this is a crazy idea, but like guilds could compete for like different life skilling. Like, so the guild that did the most life skilling, did the most horse training, could like, you know, like win something for horse training that would help buff their guild for horse training. And then they could advertise as like the best horse training guild on the server. That would be really cool, because this is something that you could apply for both PvP guilds and PvE guilds, because there's a lot of different types of guilds in BDO. There's a lot of different ways to rank them. So I think that there's a lot they could actually do with that. I would love to see that get passed along. Delphi, to the developers.
Oh, sorry, call him out. Call him out. Do it.
But okay, all right. So let's move to the next point. That was an excellent talking point, Tiltus. You're gaming. Let's look at overwhelming at the beginning of the game. Okay, do you think that the game is too overwhelming, or do you honestly, when we started the game, I feel like these kids have it easy. But like, also, you're right. People do quit the game because they're just like, honestly, you spawn in and the UI is something out of like. It's like you opened the best comparison I can make is porn.
I'm driving the Enterprise is what happens when you pull open BDO's UI for the first time.
It's like, I hate to say it this way, it's like watching porn without ad blockers. Like, it's brutal. You spawn it. Am I wrong? It's absolutely brutal. You spawn in and there's just shit everywhere, bro. Like, there's just, you can't even see your screen. Like, can we just do away with some of this stuff, and then people can just turn it on if they want to? Right? Yep. Like let people choose whether or not they can turn that on. The UI is like my biggest thing. Yeah, what overwhelming things were you talking about?
So I remember when we first all started, I'm assuming you guys are all 6 and 7 year old players at this point. You get assaulted with workers, you get assaulted with the Black Spirit, which has quests that are separate from the main quest that you're doing that requires you to run around and talk to NPCs. You have the whole horse system's in the game. The horse's stables in the game. The storage is not a confined storage. It's storage based on one town compared to the next town over, Then you have the central market storage. Then you have foods. Then you have player homes. Like, all this stuff just gets thrown at you very quickly into the game, and they've streamlined it a lot. I will give them that. Like, when new players show up or my friends want to try out BDO, I'm like, hey, go make a seasonal character and literally open the season pass and just do everything it says on that checklist all the way down. And that will get you started into the game. But I do think there is, especially with like, you've got like the daily specials, you've got your Y tab, you've got your daily mail, you've got the Black Spirit safe, you got the Black Spirit adventure. Like, if you have no idea what you're doing and you haven't played like MMO or anything like that, you just get assaulted with the information right off the rip. And it's like, what just happened? Like, the very first time I played BDO, I played it for 3 days, if even that, and I put it down. I didn't touch it again for 6 months. And then 6 months, that's when I picked it up again for the first time, and I was like, this is the best game I've ever played in my entire life. But dude, the first time I picked the game up, I was like, what is happening? Like, there's too much going on for me. I don't know if you guys have a similar experience, or if you picked it up and you were like, this is my game, I'm done, I found it, this is my calling.
Yeah, Jacob, what do you think?
I've been playing MMOs for a long time, and so it was like easy for me to pick up And I imagine for people who get into BDO, they've probably played an MMO before, maybe like World of Warcraft. I know I played World of Warcraft for about a year.
I was a
during the
RuneScape
Legion
kid.
expansion. You were a RuneScape. I've actually never played RuneScape.
The UI of RuneScape is the most simplistic thing on the planet.
I've played all these MMO. I've actually never played the one MMO that you mentioned as the most popular MMO that's ever been.
Well, the thing with OSRS is it's minimal. There is very little happening on the screen. The UI is very simplistic. You don't get assaulted with a bunch of information at the beginning of the game. It's very like, okay, here you go. You're in a sandbox just like BDO is, but it's very simple. Whereas BDO, like I went from like RuneScape to like Destiny to League of Legends and then to BDO. And so I was just like, what is happening in this game? I've been obliterated with so much information.
Yeah,
so,
I do agree. When new players come in, even me, I felt really, really daunted by the amount of information that was presented to me. But I personally like picked up like really fast. I don't know if anybody else in chat had the same experience or it was much a different experience for them. But for me, I picked up pretty fast. I'm very used to MMOs. Like I said, I used to play World of Warcraft. I don't know if you've ever seen World of Warcraft streams, but literally you can only see 20% of your screen. The rest is like UI elements.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many people saying things in chat. Like one of the things that I want to touch on is like the amount of shit that they give you for your the amount of useless fucking shit that they give you for your inventory. And the new players are always like, what do I do with all these things? And you're like, this is all garbage, except for that one thing, except for that thing. Don't throw that away, right? Like, and they don't know.
That exact experience with my really good friend. Was like, all right, I'm gonna try BDO again, and I was like, all right, dude, like, here's what you got to do. And he literally like listed off all the items in his inventory while we were sitting in Discord one day, and I was like, yeah, throw all that in the garbage except for those. And he was like, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like, you hear horror stories of new players all the time. Like, there was, I'll never forget this one Reddit post where this kid literally goes, finally finished the infinite pod piece. And he's got 200 pity pieces in his inventory and three of like the Markthanon's glands. And we're like, oh my God, nobody told him.
Oh no.
Like, this man grinded, he thought he needed 300 pity pieces from one spot. Like, he had no idea. And no one in his guild, they all laughed at him. He said, I quit the game, I never picked it up again. Like, it's
fair. Honestly,
I would too. If I had been in Shere Khan or whatever for that long in the trenches taking grenades with the rest of the people that are there, you guys remember grinding Shere Khan, everybody fucking hates each other because everybody fucking hates being there. Like, nobody wants to be there. And so everybody just immediately flags on each other. Tashira, the only redeeming quality of Tashira Ruins really is every time you actually see someone, you can yell, "What are you doing in my swamp?" Like something out of Shrek. And then like Blood Wolves is also a nightmare, but you get so much shit and you have no idea what is actually good and what is actually bad. Granted, it does say it on the item if you mouse over it, but like the game does not train you to mouse over stuff and figure stuff out, right? Like the NPC locator, like for quest side, I do this all the time. I'm like, all right, like I'll right click an item and I'll be like, am I supposed to go somewhere for this? And it'll say NPC locator. You just click on it and you just hit T. Most players don't even know to do stuff like that.
Dude, I got you one better. I had a guy in my guild the other day, a very experienced player that has played for a long time, didn't know that you could search for items. He found that out like a month ago.
In fairness,
that is a recent thing, right?
That is pretty recent. Like, and thank
but also,
God,
like,
dude.
He just didn't know because the game doesn't really explain that, like, hey, there's this new feature. You can look for items in any of your inventories if you click the magnifying glass at the storage or bring up the menu in your UI.
I mean, yeah, you're not wrong. Yeah.
I have another player that I've played with he was in the first guild I was in before Epidemic even existed. And he didn't know until 3 months ago that you could change the speed of your pets. He's had his pets on yellow for 6 years. He goes, I just thought I was bad at grinding.
Hey, I
had no idea.
We all have those stories. We all have those stories. When I started the game, I didn't know how residences work. I can't believe I'm sharing this story. I didn't know how residences work. I thought that you could like theoretically, if you bought all the residences in a town, that no one else could have a residence in that town. So I sat for like 4 months. I was the king of Heidel. Every single fucking house in Heidel I had bought and had a residence in, so that no other player on the server could have a residence until I'm not joking. We were sitting in Discord one time and somebody's like, yeah, I have a residence in Heidel. And
Yeah, what?
I was like, what do you mean you have a residence? He's like, yeah, I bought I have Heidel 1-1. I was like, oh, okay. And then I didn't even explain it because I was so embarrassed. I just immediately uninvested all my contribution and moved on. Like nothing happened. Like nothing happened. But like everybody has those moments where like, yeah, the game didn't explain anything to you, but also those are some of my favorite moments about the game.
Oh,
so like, I feel like there's a delicate balance between trying to baby the new players. I say baby, but like get them into the game.
You want to handhold them to some degree because they got to get into the game at some point. So it's like,
right.
Here, let me lead you along a little bit.
But also, you don't want to mislead them. Right?
The new player experience is way better than it now than it was 6 years ago. But I think it's still a little overwhelming in my opinion. I think seasonal servers should just turn off most of the alerts that pop up, and it's just like, hey, here's the game. Follow this season pass right here all the way down to the bottom, and you'll understand the game to some degree, and then you can go explore the world. But like when you first load into BDO and it's just literally alert, 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 and then you turn it off, and then it goes on for another 5 minutes because it has all of them queued up for the next 5 minutes.
Oh god, like, I remember that 7 years ago when I turned it off. Like, oh my god, bro, like it's just miserable. And that's such an easy fix, right? Just turn off all these UI elements and allow people to turn them on if they want to. Which no one does, but like that's fine. But like the UI is a big thing. I think another thing that goes into new players is, like we talked about before, classes. They need to be able to find a class. I don't think that the game actually puts enough emphasis on, like right out the gate, you just start and they're like, all right, what class do you want to play? It's literally the most important choice in the entire game. And they're like, yeah, what class do you want to play? And you're like scrolling through them all, and it just doesn't do a great job. So that's why I'm working on a class guide to help teach new players. But like even when I'm starting to dive into it, I'm like, oh my god, this is so much stuff.
That's something I'm doing like, too. Like I'm trying to learn. Like one of my new things is I'm gonna sit down and try to learn, not be good, but learn every class in the game. Because there's some classes I've just literally never played before. That's bold. Yeah, it is. Well, I'm gonna start with like whatever's better in PvP, like Sucker Awaken, and then break it down from there. But it's something I've never done before, and there are classes in the game I've never touched before. So like I had a vendetta against gauntlet classes because I played DK for so long that I would swear I'd never touch a gauntlet class. So like that's on the list. I have to learn how to play gauntlet classes.
You too? Like I played DK for 3.5 years.
Yeah, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Same thing.
You see a gauntlet class and you're like, okay, dude,
I felt so dirty.
My bad.
I started playing Mystic and I was like, I'm filthy right now. I need to shower. I don't want to do it anymore. Like, but it should feel that way.
You're 100% right. I think something that would probably be good, and this will be an interesting take. I think something that might be good, and it might already exist. I just haven't done it in so long. When you finish like through like let's say Calpheon main quest, they should give you a combat XP transfer coupon for the first time you finish it. And it's like, hey, if you got this far and you really hate your class, here's a one-time coupon you can use, and you can go try a different class.
Yeah, it's not a bad idea.
A lot of games do that. I mean, they give you a skill coupon when you get your awakening, right? Because they're like, oh crap, you just specced into all this stuff, and now you might not need it anymore.
But here's the thing, they already do this. They have Tuvala reroll coupons, I think, and they have the timepiece.
The timepiece,
and they have the timepiece, right?
The timepiece, yes, you're 100% correct. And maybe because I'm a veteran player and I know what all the classes do to some extent, that I see that as something, but like that probably should be some kind of focus as well. I don't think. Do you have to finish the seasonal to get the timepiece?
No. You could just walk up to Fugar and be like, I would like to roll over now.
Okay. Is that how it works? Okay, yeah. So that's good. Okay, if that's the case, then I backtrack that previous statement about that. But yeah, I didn't actually know that you could get it. I don't do seasonal often at all. I hate the new player experience. I hate running through the.
I love the new player experience.
Oh god,
I think it's way better. I think that questing.
It's way better now. You're 100% right, but I'm scarred, dude. Do you have any idea how many characters I ran through the Calpheon quest in the last 6 years?
I'm hitting R just thinking about it. Like
I know, like, bro,
Dude,
I went through so many characters. I must have made, and this is not my original account that I'm playing. This is my second account that I made from scratch, and dude, like going through the main story all over again, like on so many different. I must have made 30 different characters, and I've ran most of them through the MSQ. So I've pressed the R key a lot in this game.
What's your total quest count?
Yeah, no kidding.
On this
here
account,
comes a
it's not
flex.
very good.
Oh, okay.
On this account, it's not very good because I decided a few years ago I was just gonna start over from scratch because I was like, I don't want to play on this account anymore. This account has way better RNG, so I'm super glad I did it.
Okay,
but
That's how RNG works, 100%.
Dude, I'm telling you, I got my tinfoil hat on for that one. I'll die on that molehill. I will die on that molehill.
You think quests have like a like a set amount of luck or something?
No, I think your account at creation still has a set amount of luck, and I will die on that molehill. I will die on it, Blue. You can look at me like that all you want.
It's an interesting. It's a hot take. It's a hot take. It's one of them. You know what I mean? I think that questing, though, over the years, if we're going to touch on it, I think that when we were new players, questing was like the worst experience. I'm like the anti-quester. That's what I call myself. It's like the anti-Christ, except it's questing.
Yes,
I
sir.
hate questing. And the reason is they made it such a terrible experience when the game started. But I think that lately they've started to understand, oh my God, we can make this fun. Why didn't we think about this sooner? Like voice acting.
Yeah.
Massive improvement.
Dude, that was my favorite part when I ran
improvement.
through Mountain of Eternal Winter. Was the little fox dude's voice the whole time. I was like, yes.
Lando.
I was like, this. I want to listen
Thank God
to
for
this guy
Lando,
now.
bro. Exactly. Like, and if that had been my experience from the start of the game, who knows? I might not literally loathe questing at this point. Like, but I think that they've done a much better job with questing in very recent past because they've made it much more engaging. Like I feel like honestly, the funny thing is the straw that broke the camel's back is when they're like asking their BDO partners on like guest shows or whatever, like lore questions about the game that are very clearly in the main story, and none of us had any idea because we just hard straight through the main storyline.
You're like, look, I'm an R spammer.
You need to look at our content. We spent a lot of time on it. You will like it. It's like the biggest sentiment. Like,
I don't think the overarching story for BDO is that bad because I have a loose understanding of what happens in the game. I don't think it's that bad. I think the way it's presented is just less than ideal, to put it nicely.
Yeah, I just like I feel like it's much more engaging now. And as a new player, I would just sit there. I love listening to stuff. I hated reading when I was growing up. Most of the new generation, as a teacher, they hate reading. I'll listen to audiobooks all day though. I'll listen to somebody talk to me. That's why I like podcasts and stuff too, all day, which is why voice acting is such an important aspect, I think, of a game. And I'm glad that they finally picked that up. Also, making engaging quest lines. I know I'm going to bring up Nom, so everyone brace yourself for the flashback. The Magnus quest line was like actually hot take, really good quest line.
I loved it. Yeah,
hot take.
I actually played the whole thing.
Yeah,
like I didn't skip. I just sat there and enjoyed Magnus for what it was worth until about like the 5-hour mark, and then I was like, okay, I'm ready for my pen piece now. Let's speed this up a little bit. But yeah, I thought Magnus was really good.
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely loved it. I mean, I bitch, whined, and moaned the whole way through it, but I absolutely loved it. Like, and I think that if they did more engaging quests like that made you think, and it's not just, it doesn't just make you frustrated that you can't go to the next quest. Right now, in like a lot of the quests in the game, I just get really annoyed when I can't just hit T and then just run to the next NPC. And that's because I just hate questing that much. But the Magnus quest line actually made me stop. And instead of trying to run to the next NPC, I was like, okay, so how am I going to do this one? And that is like what you want to try to capture with questing. So I think they're getting there. They're definitely moving in the right direction with that at least. And then I think for classes, one point I didn't get to touch on before, is that when we started this game, classes were much more difficult to pick up for like 100 different reasons. But I'm just going to talk about skill, like I call it the skill floor. In other words, the barrier to entry on a class. Back then, like for Valkyrie, a long time ago. Nowadays, it's a lot easier. But like when we started, Valkyrie's barrier to entry was incredibly high. So was Sork's. So was like even Stav. Like everyone's barrier to entry was incredibly high.
It was a fighting game basically. Is what you were doing.
But with the new classes, you got like Megu and Wusa. Wusa, I'm going to use Wusa. Megu is oh man, people get mad about that. But I'm going to use Wusa as a good example. Wusa's skill floor is really low. So like a new player could pick up and play Wusa and have a good time with it and do competently well with the class. But as they explore and progress on the class, I think the developers really nailed that class because the skill ceiling is really high. So like they've mastered this ability to like have a low enough skill floor that new players can pick it up and enjoy it, but have a good skill ceiling so it's got enough depth that they can play it for thousands of hours and not get tired of it. I think that's probably why J-Kun, you can talk on it a little bit, but like J-Kun loves playing Wusa.
Yeah, I mean, when I started with Wusa, so I, you know, as I mentioned, I played an Awakening Witch for a long time, and most people will know that Awakening Witch does not have the most, you know, extensive key inputs. It's not too much, not too key intensive. And then when I went over to Wusa, I personally felt it was like high APM for me. But especially when you started going to Olin's Valley, you start playing with Shies and you start running out of cooldowns, you got to start making up combos, and it just felt really, I felt really powerful knowing what I can go, like when I started improvising combos, because you can't have your combos because you run out of cooldowns with the shy buffs, right? You cast your spells way too fast, especially when you have BSR and shy buffs, because that stacks. Also, for some reason, Wusa doesn't have her own attack speed buff. Is that common for a lot of classes?
No,
yeah, Wusa does not have her own attack speed buff. It's only BSR is where you get attack speed from. And so when you have both at BSR and the shy buffs, you just go so fast. Your APM like literally triples.
Yeah.
And so you know,
it was probably designed. I would like to think that it was designed with that in mind. So that's why it feels so
really
weird when you suddenly have attack speed buffs and you're like, oh my god, I just burned through all my skills. It was probably designed with the no attack speed steroids, and so it played normal, and then you get attack speed steroids, and you're like, what is happening?
Right. Well, I think J-Kun's right. I think it rewards players for actually understanding their class. Like I'm gonna touch on Striker a little bit here because it's like the exact opposite. It's like first me grab, then me kill, and they do the same fucking combo every time because that's the best. Yeah, and ironically, it's the martial artist class. It's supposed to be this like big combo oriented, like you can mix and match and like punch and kick and do all this crazy shit. And it's really just like I use the same 3 fucking buttons every time they hit the ground. And that's frustrating. But like with the newer classes, I feel like they've really started to pick that up, and they're trying to fix it with the older classes as well. But like
slowly with the old classes.
Yeah,
I would like to see them streamline that a little bit, to be honest. I think the old classes really need some love right now. I think with the release of Mega and Wusa, it showed that the old classes are just getting a little prehistoric feeling.
Yeah, my biggest
Considering
complaint,
my roster is all old classes. I don't play the new classes at all.
It's fair. J-Kun can talk a little bit on this too, but I think that like my biggest gripe with Witch, the one thing that really irks me about the class is it trying to get from
skills, right?
Yeah, well, okay. I was gonna say trying to get from pre-awakening to awakening and back again. Like trying to get back and forth between the two forms. On other classes, it's so simple. It's so seamless. Everything is so clean. And in Witch, you're like C-swapping all the time. It's all clunky. It's like it feels really, really clunky, and it's really annoying to go back and forth between the two. And it should feel more seamless. And I feel like there's really no reason for that to be a thing. I feel like thematically that should not be a thing. I feel like all of the classes should be able to switch back and forth very seamlessly. Maybe not as well as Mystic can, but like they should at least be able to go back and forth without feeling too, I don't know, bad about it. Like when I have to speed spell, I'm like, oh god damn it. Like I have to go to pre-awakening and then get back again. Like it's really annoying. So like I don't know. I feel like that I would love to see that get fixed with Witch, but I think that Tiltus makes a good point that yeah, they need to go back on some of these older classes and keep coming out with new classes. Sure, at least that's my opinion on it. But like these older classes got to be updated a little bit. But
I noticed on the older classes, I noticed on the newer classes, their absolute skills are pretty much the same as their succession skills, but stronger. Whereas if you look at something like Witch or Wizard, their absolute spells look very dated and
old,
ugly,
yeah,
and old. It's unlike their succession variants completely, and so maybe they should go back and maybe update that, and it would feel better to use your absolute skills. Because I do think when it comes to awakening, sure, like saying your awakening is fine as an awakening witch, but I really missed back in 2019 when I was grinding like History 2018, 2019 History, I was constantly weaving in and out of Awakening and Pre-Awakening because your Awakening spells like did not scale at all. And I missed that kind of playstyle. Nowadays, you just stay in your Awakening, but I kind of wish it would go back to the style where you could weave and deck in and out of Pre-Awakening and Awakening.
I like
personally
that.
think Absolutes are part of the Awakening kit. So
yeah,
I agree completely.
I think that was one of the big things that I really enjoyed about DK during my brief stint when I was actually semi good at PvP in this game.
You're still good at PvP. Give yourself some credit.
Not like I was then, but that was one of the things I really liked about DK was it was you had to weave pre-awakened and awakened in order to do damage.
I love
DK,
that,
and I loved it so much. I thought it was really engaging content because you're like I'm awakened, but I'm using my entire kit to the fullest of its potential.
Absolutely.
I enjoy that. I think it would be really nice to see classes or see a shift in the way classes are played to be like, if you're awakening, you have your whole kit available and it is all functional for some reason. Whereas like right now it feels like, and I'm maybe speaking out my ass here a little bit, but I feel like awakening right now is like I could pretty much stay in awakening in all my classes and just sit there, and occasionally I'll pop out of pre-awake or pop into pre-awaken to do something and then go back into awaken. And succession is like, you know, it's its own monster, but I liked it more when you had to weave. I felt the game was way more engaging when you were weaving skills and abilities from both kits.
Yeah, no, like that's what I like that because again, it gives the class depth. It doesn't feel very one-dimensional, like you've got to use your awakening kit. You're griefing if you use fireball. Like that's.
Do you think it's a gear issue? Do you think the damage? You think the damage in the game is too high now that you have to use the optimal skills every single time?
No, I like that's a can of worms. But like the that's
we don't
a
have
can of worms. But like the
you give me a simple yes or no if you want.
I think I think that Jaykun's right. Like the witch and wizard particularly have super outdated pre-awakening. You're griefing yourself. If you go into pre-awakening in PvE or mostly in PvP, you're almost always in awakening. Even on Witch, like even to use range, it used to be like, okay, well, I want to use Meteor and Blizzard. I cast Blizzard like once a node war and it gets me killed every time. Like I try and I'm like, never mind, that was terrible. Like they need to update like how the skills look, A, and B, they need to update a little bit of their functionality because like classes like Dark Knight, it feels like you're constantly, especially on Awakening DK, you're constantly trying to weave in things. And you're like, all right, what do I have? It's like a competition. What do I have off cooldown? And what can I catch them with? Because you're always using all the aspects of your kit. Versus Witch, where you're like, well, I've used Voltaic and Thunderstorm, so gotta use a frontal guard now, I guess. Like, that's it, you know? Like, so, like, yeah, I do think that, like, Jaykun's absolutely right. Like, those skills need to be updated. Like, there's a few things, and this is just Wizard and Witch. We'll dive into this in the next podcast a little bit more. But, yeah, like, I think that some of the older classes definitely need to be updated a little bit more. That being said, we are drawing to a close here. Guys, that was a full 2 hours. I was like 1 to 2 hours. Depends on how the conversation goes.
It's been 2 hours already?
It's been 2 hours. It has been 2 hours. Wasn't that cool? I really enjoyed it.
That was
so like,
fast.
Yeah, it goes by quick when you get to rolling on topics.
Yeah. So guys, make sure that this is going to be posted on YouTube. I'm pretty sure that Jaykun and Tiltus are probably going to put theirs up on YouTube as well. I'm going to put mine up tonight so that people in the morning, the idea is that in the morning when a patch hits, you guys can just flip on one of our podcasts and listen to the game that you love so much in the morning on your way to work or something, or whatever, whenever you have time to listen to it. So the idea behind this podcast was to really kind of unpack a lot of the different aspects of BDO. We got to talk about PvP, we got to talk about PvE, we got to talk about content creators, we got to talk about new players, veteran players, all of it. And it was a lot of fun. Big shout out to Jaykun VT for being one of the co-hosts, and then twitch.tv/rslay, who is Tiltus. I'm fairly certain he's trying to get his name changed to Tiltus.
Yeah, I'm probably gonna change soon. So.
All right, so yeah, we've been calling him Tiltus today, but big shout out to my co-hosts here. You guys did an amazing job, and we will be back next Tuesday for yet another podcast. Are either of you still streaming after this?
No, I'm done.
You're done? Jake, you keep going?
might be actually. I might have a scheduled dungeon run. Actually, someone was asking me about it.
Oh yeah,
really popular, by the way. I'm really.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. That's all right. But okay, I'll go ahead and throw. I'll go ahead and throw it on over to you. But guys, it was so great talking to you. I'm gonna go ahead and do the outro for my stream here. I'll catch you guys next week. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, absolutely, dude.
Okay, guys, I want to thank you for all the follows. I know you guys will be able to see their webcams and stuff for a little while longer. But like, I want to thank you for all the follows. I think yeah, we got a ton of follows during the podcast. This is a wild success. They do a good job as mod. You guys, my mods did amazing. Shadowy Taiku, everybody did an amazing job as mod here. Just doing an awesome job. Oh, we shouted out Jkud and RSA. Perfect. We got that done too. Good. Thank you guys for all the support and stuff. This is the very first time I've ever tried to do something like a podcast. I am adding a day to my stream schedule, so I'm streaming 4 days a week now. The podcast being one of those days now on Tuesday evenings, right at Node War start time. And the idea, guys, is that even if you do miss the podcast, you can tune into one of our YouTube channels or watch the VOD back, and you should be able to, you know, catch what you missed and like hear about the patch notes, the new happenings in the game, what's happened in the last week or so of BDO and the big topics of the game. I feel like one of the big things missing from our content is a podcast that you can listen to on your way to work and stuff. So like that's kind of how I tried to structure this as we went here. And I really appreciate everybody tuning in. So Silence Bottom, he said my name. All right, guys, I'm gonna go ahead and bounce out. I'm gonna throw you guys over to Jkud. Thank you so much. First of all the follows. Hey, girl. Hey, thank you so much for the follows, guys. Thank you so much for the resubs. All the people that have been following, doing raid parties, doing watch parties where they've been like watching for like 3 or 4 of these watch streaks, these 3 or 4 days in a row. You guys are absolute heroes. Thank you for supporting me. I love you guys so much. I will see you guys on Saturday again with my next big stream. So I'll talk to you guys then. I'm gonna go ahead and throw you guys over to Jkud now. You guys have a great rest of your night.